Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to create an ADA compliant Word document. Creating a document that is ADA compliant is easy as long as you keep a few simple things in mind. The checklist you will see is included on the OER Commons template that you will use to submit your work to the OER Commons website. The first checkbox states that font should be no smaller than 12 point. As many of us probably know, trying to read a document with tiny font can be difficult even if you don't have a strong visual impairment. You can always go bigger, but 12 point is the smallest acceptable font size. The second checkbox states that the font should be either Arial or Verdana. It is important that these fonts are used because they are simple and clean sans serif fonts. Any sort of visual impairment can make it very difficult to read fancy fonts, so the cleaner, the better. The third checkbox is to make sure that there is a high color contrast. This would be something like black text on a white background. People who have vision problems have trouble discerning shades that are similar, so if the background and text colors have a low contrast between them, the text might be unreadable. The starker the contrast between background and text, the better. The fourth checkbox is about using color to convey meaning. Similar to contrast issues, a person with vision impairments like color blindness, macular degeneration, low vision, etc. may not notice that the colored text is colored at all. Thus, they will not pick up on the emphasis. Using color for emphasis is fine so long as you pair it with something else. And to illustrate the point, I have examples here. So here you will see that this is not compliant, and that's because it is using color alone to convey an emphasis. This sentence, however, is compliant because while it is using color as one point of emphasis, for those who might not be able to discern the color, it's also using a bold type font. Along with this, there are other ways to do that. So say you have a table and you're putting in, X's here. So this first table is non-compliant because it's using X's as the symbol for all the boxes. And the green X's are saying what to do, while the red X's are saying what to don't. For someone with visual issues here, especially color blindness, they wouldn't be able to tell what's red and what's green. It would all look the same. So in that case, this compliant box here shows, yes, you can use the red and the green, but the do has a check and the don't has an X. Also within this box, I threw in a little bit about contrast too. So as you can see, this is compliant because the colored text is also made bold. However, even for people with fine vision, you can see that the low contrast here between the white and that light blue is still even kind of hard to read. So the more contrast, the better. Okay. Next on the checklist is that all images, graphics, and tables are accompanied by alternate text. Alternative texts are important because if a visually impaired person is using a screen reader, the reader will only pick up on the alt text. Since the image won't be seen or seen well by the user, the alt text describes what is being shown. So I'll show you how to do that here. So here I have this this lovely picture of these tulips, right? So if I want to add, it was a copy and paste from Google, and here's the website that it came from. So I have this lovely picture. If I right click on the picture, go into Format Picture, and then here we have Layout and Properties, and here is the drop down for alt text. So as you can see, I already put in a title and a description. So the title reads Tulips, and the description is neatly planted rows of blooming pink and white tulips in the Netherlands. So it describes what's going on in the picture. That way someone using a screen reader still knows what's happening. So the alt text has been added in. Now, if you want to add a caption in, which the screen reader will also pick up on, this might be a little confusing, having, this just down here in regular text. The screen reader won't really pick up on that the way it's supposed to. So, in order to turn this into a caption, instead, I'm going to copy it. I am going to insert caption. And here it says figure 1. That has to stay. I'll just add a space and I'll paste in the rest. Okay, and now I'll put it in a caption. Even though it's, tiny, which is technically not to ADA compliancy, you can go in and manually bump it up to 12 so that it is, and then it will also be picked up by the screen reader. So that is alternative text and captions, alt text and captions. Okay. So the 6th checkbox is that actually, I'm sorry. So the next checkbox is that it is in all images or graphics are using the wrapping style in line with text, which I believe is the default, but just to make sure, you want to come down here, and when you put in the picture, you can click on either this little icon here, or you can right click and go to wrap text. You want to make sure that in line with text is selected, which it is. If it's any of the other ones, a screen reader is going to have trouble picking up on it. So while something may look nicer for someone who's using assistive technology, it won't read. So in line with text. Then the next box is talking about that all tables contain column header rows. Header rows are important more so for large tables with a lot of data that go beyond one page. You need to make it so that the header row repeats on every page. And again, the header rows, like alt text, are picked up by screen readers, whereas if you just put it in as bolded text, it wouldn't be. So if you put in a table, so here's my little table, talent show entries, whatever. Here's my table. I have all my data in. I'm going to click on the top. I'm going to right click, go to table properties, and check this box that says repeat as header row at the top of each page. So now, say my box was so big that it went down to the next page, so we're just going to drag it down. So now it's on a second page, and you can see that it repeated that header information for me automatically. So it keeps all the information nice and clean for those using assistive technologies. All right. Moving on is hyperlinks. So the link should never just say click here. Again, difficult for screen readers and assistive technologies. So you always want a link to be descriptive as to where it's going. So here we have not compliant and compliant. Now, if you don't know how to add in a link and make it so that the text shows up not as what the link is, you just go to Insert, actually, let me copy and paste. So we're going to do the OER. We'll do the OER Commons site. We'll copy. We'll go to Insert Link. You'll put in the web address. And you can insert all sorts of links. You can put in documents and things like that. We're putting in something from online. So I put in the web address. It automatically put the web address here in text to display, but we're going to get rid of that one. And the text we want to display is the compliant text. Link to OER Commons website. And OK. And now there it is. So when you click on it, brings you right to the page. So that is an ADA compliant link. And then you want to make sure that you're using built-in formatting and styles. So the built-in formatting is, instead of making a page header just something that's bold, you want to utilize these heading tools because the screen reader will pick up on that. It'll make things more readable, easier to scan through, whereas if you just manually make it bold, big text, it won't do that. It'll just mesh in with everything else. So using the heading separates things out. And then lastly, you want to make sure that for all lists you're using the bullet or numbering function. Once again, for the purpose of screen readers, if you just manually put in a list of, dashes, dash, thing 1, dash, thing 2, yeah, it's auto-formatting it, but it's not actually, no, it did auto-format it because Word is that good. So depending on the version you have, it might just auto-format it into a list. But you just want to make sure that you're always using these bulleted lists and numbered lists. And I think that's it for here. Yeah, the last one is just talking about a video. If you're submitting a video as your work, you want to make sure that it includes closed captions. And there's a separate tutorial on how to add closed captions to YouTube video. This video is just for the purpose of making a document ADA compliant. So once you've checked off all of the applicable boxes on the list, your Word document will be considered ADA compliant and you are good to go. I hope you found this tutorial informative and helpful, and good luck in creating your ADA compliant documents.